every human being. It is not your neighbor. It is not the economy. It is not the people who doubted you or the circumstances you were born into. The enemy is within, and until you face it, until you conquer it, your potential will remain locked away like gold hidden deep in the ground. This inner enemy wears many faces. Sometimes it looks like fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being laughed at, fear of trying and not succeeding. Fear has stopped more dreams than failure ever could. Sometimes this enemy looks like procrastination, that quiet voice that tells you tomorrow will be better. You're tired right now. Rest, and you'll start fresh later. But tomorrow never comes because the inner enemy knows that if it can keep you waiting, it will keep you from growing. Other times, this enemy looks like doubt. It whispers in your mind, who are you to chase greatness? Who are you to think you can build something extraordinary? Stay where you are. Don't embarrass yourself. Doubt is clever because it doesn't shout. It whispers just enough to weaken your courage. But the most dangerous mask of this enemy is comfort. Comfort tells you that where you are is good enough. Comfort convinces you that mediocrity is safety. Comfort makes you settle for a paycheck when your soul is crying out for purpose. Comfort tells you why risk failure when you can survive just fine as you are. And here's the great deception: the inner enemy is not some outside force. It is you. It is the version of you that has been shaped by fear, by past failures, by laziness, by excuses, by every moment you chose the easy road instead of the hard one. That version of you lives inside, waiting for the next chance to hold you back. Look closely at your life. Every time you stopped yourself from taking a bold step, every time you let fear decide for you, every time you allowed excuses to replace effort, that was the inner enemy winning the battle. But here's the truth: you were not created to live small. You were not designed to be ruled by hesitation, fear, or laziness. Inside you is greatness. Inside you is courage. Inside you is discipline, vision, and strength. But those gifts will never be revealed until you defeat the inner enemy. Defeating this enemy requires recognition. You must call it out by name. Don't just say, I procrastinate. Say, the enemy of my destiny is procrastination and it lives in me, but it will no longer control me. Don't just say, I'm afraid. Say, fear has kept me from my future long enough, but today fear dies. Once you identify it, you must go to war with it. And war means sacrifice. Sacrificing the comfort of staying in bed for the discipline of rising early. Sacrificing the pleasure of excuses for the satisfaction of progress. Sacrificing the habit of waiting for the power of action. The inner enemy thrives on your inaction. Every time you delay, every time you give in, it grows stronger. But every time you act, every time you discipline yourself, every time you push forward despite fear, it weakens. Your future will not be built by luck. It will be built by the battles you fight against yourself. And the greatest victory you will ever win is not over another person. It is over the weaker version of yourself. Remember this: the inner enemy cannot be negotiated with. It cannot be befriended. It cannot be ignored. It must be destroyed. Because as long as it lives, it will hold your destiny hostage. There is a version of you that wants to shrink back into comfort, and there is a version of you that is destined for greatness. Which one will you allow to live? Every living thing in nature teaches us a secret. In order for life to rise, something must die. The seed must split apart and surrender its shell before it can push roots into the soil. The caterpillar must enter darkness, surrendering its old body before it can take wings as a butterfly. Even the seasons remind us. Autumn strips the trees bare, winter buries them in silence, and yet spring comes bursting forth with color and life. The same law applies to you. The person you are today cannot create the life you dream of tomorrow. Why? Because if the current version of you were enough, you would already be living that dream. The only path forward is transformation, and transformation demands that a part of you must die. This death is not physical. It is the death of habits, the death of limiting beliefs, the death of destructive patterns. It is the end of procrastination, fear, excuses, self-doubt. Without this death, there is no space for the new you to be born. Think about it: a seed cannot remain both a seed and a tree at the same time. It must choose. It must surrender its old identity to step into its destiny. Likewise, you cannot hold on to your old ways and expect to grow into greatness. You cannot remain in comfort and expect to reach purpose. You cannot cling to excuses and expect to hold success. Something must be released. Something must die. This is why so many people never achieve what they were capable of. They fear the death of the old self. They cling to comfort even when comfort is killing them. They cling to excuses. Even when excuses are chaining them, they want rebirth, but they refuse the burial. But here is the truth: death creates rebirth. When you bury your old habits, new discipline rises. When you bury your excuses, new action rises. When you bury your doubt, new faith rises. When you bury your fear, new courage rises. Ask yourself, what part of me must die for the greater version of me to live? Is it the version that wastes hours in distraction? Is it the version that waits for opportunities instead of creating them? Is it the version that lives to please others instead of following purpose? Whatever it is, you must bury it today. Understand this death will not be easy. Growth never is. Just like the seed pushing through soil, just like the butterfly breaking out of its cocoon, you will feel resistance. Your old self will fight for survival. It will whisper, "Don't change. Stay the same. It's safer here." But safety is not life. Safety is a prison. Your destiny requires risk. Your future demands courage. And the only way forward is through the death of the old. So let me ask you, are you willing to let go? Are you willing to step into the unknown? Are you willing to bury the smaller version of yourself so that the greater one can rise? The people who create legacies, the people who change the world, the people who live with abundance and purpose, they all faced this choice, and they all chose to die to their old selves. That is why they live so powerfully today. Do not fear this death. Embrace it, because on the other side is rebirth. On the other side is the life you've been longing for. On the other side is the real you, the unstoppable, disciplined, visionary, courageous you. Death is not the end, it is the doorway, and beyond that doorway is your rebirth. You cannot conquer what you refuse to confront, and you cannot confront what you are unwilling to recognize. Every person who desires transformation must one day stand face to face with the version of themselves that has kept them small. That self is not imaginary. It is not hidden in the shadows of someone else's actions. It is real, it is powerful, and it lives within you. This old self shows up in many forms. It is the part of you that tells you to hit snooze instead of rising to meet your day with discipline. It is the part of you that convinces you that scrolling, watching, and wasting time is somehow more urgent than working on your dream. It is the self that speaks in the language of excuses. I'll start next week. I'm too tired. Things aren't right yet, maybe later. That self is a liar. But the most dangerous thing about this liar is that it speaks with your voice. And because it sounds like you believe it. This is why so many people never grow. They think their biggest obstacles are external, money, connections, opportunity. But the greatest obstacle is not out there. It is in here. It is the old self whispering, you can't. You won't. You shouldn't. Don't try. If you want transformation, you must look this self in the eye. You must drag it out of the shadows and expose it for what it really is, the enemy of your destiny. This confrontation is uncomfortable because when you strip away the excuses, when you silence the blame, you are left with a mirror. And in that mirror, you must admit, I am the reason I am not where I want to be. I am the reason my dream is still on hold. I am the reason my potential is still locked away. But here is the good news. If you are the reason, then you are also the solution. If you are the obstacle, then you also hold the key. So, how do you confront the old self? First, by honesty. Be brutally honest about your patterns. Write them down. What do you do every day that keeps you small? Where do you give in to fear? Where do you trade progress for comfort? Until you are honest, you cannot heal. Second, by naming the enemy, give it no hiding place. Don't just say, I waste time. Say, the old self in me loves distraction, but I am stronger than distraction. Don't just say, I get lazy. Say, the old self in me prefers comfort, but today I choose discipline. When you name it, you weaken its power. Third, by declaring war, you do not negotiate with your old self. You do not ask it for permission. You do not allow it to linger. You wage war through discipline, through new habits, through relentless focus on the future. Each day you act in defiance of the old self. The new self grows stronger. Do not misunderstand me. This battle is not a one-time event. It is daily. Every morning, the old self wakes up with you. Every day, it whispers in your ear. And every day, you must choose who wins, the weak self or the strong self. Greatness does not come by avoiding this confrontation. It comes by facing it day after day until the old self grows weaker and the greater self begins to dominate. So ask yourself today, when I look in the mirror, do I see the self that makes excuses or the self that creates results? Do I see the self that lives in fear or the self that walks in courage? Do I see the self that is dying or the self that is being born? The mirror will always tell you the truth. And once you see the truth, you must decide who will lead your future. Nothing great has ever been achieved without a price. The question is not whether you want success, freedom, or greatness. The real question is, are you willing to pay for it? Transformation is not free. It demands something from you. It demands sacrifice. And sacrifice, though painful in the moment, is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Look at the world around you. Every invention, every empire, every movement that reshaped history was born from individuals who paid the price. They sacrificed sleep to pursue vision. They sacrificed comfort to chase purpose. They sacrificed the approval of others to follow destiny. Without that price, nothing lasting could have been built. And so it is with your own life. If you want to rise, something must fall. If you want to gain, something must be given up. You cannot cling to everything and still move forward. Think of it this way. A man holding onto two anchors cannot climb. If he wishes to rise, he must let go. In the same way, you cannot carry your old habits, your endless excuses, your craving for comfort, and expect to climb the mountain of greatness. At some point, you must release them. The price of transformation comes in many forms. It may be the price of time. Hours that others spend in distraction, you must spend in building. While others are entertained, you must be educated. While others are sleeping, you must be working. It may be the price of relationships. There are people who will not understand your vision. There are voices that will try to hold you where you are. If you want to go higher, you cannot let the weight of their doubts tie you down. Some connections must be loosened and some ties must be cut. It may be the price of comfort. Growth is never comfortable. The gym hurts, studying late hurts, waking up early hurts, saying no to distractions hurts. But every ounce of pain you endure today is an investment in the power you will carry tomorrow. Most of all, the price is discipline. Discipline is the currency of transformation. Without it, every dream will remain a dream. Discipline means doing what must be done even when you don't feel like it. Discipline means refusing the easy way when the hard way leads to growth. Discipline means silencing the old self, not once, not twice, but every single day. This price may feel heavy, but remember this: the cost of transformation is far less than the cost of regret. Sacrifice is temporary, regret is forever. You will either pay the price now in sweat and effort, or you will pay it later in disappointment and what-ifs. And here is the paradox: though the price feels painful in the moment, it always gives back more than it takes. For every hour of study, you gain knowledge that no one can steal. For every drop of sweat, you gain strength and resilience. For every distraction you deny, you gain focus and clarity. The universe does not withhold reward from those who pay the price. So ask yourself today, am I willing to give up who I am for who I must become? Am I willing to trade excuses for discipline, comfort for courage, distraction for focus? Am I willing to pay the price? Because until you do, transformation will remain a wish. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that you will pay whatever it takes, that is the moment your future begins to unfold. Greatness is expensive, but it is always worth the price. The death of the old self is not the end, it is the beginning. For every burial, there is a resurrection. For every ending, there is a new birth. And when the weaker version of you finally dies, something extraordinary takes its place: the birth of the greater self. This greater self is not a stranger. It is not someone you must search for in the world outside. It has always been inside you, waiting, trapped beneath layers of fear, excuses, procrastination, and doubt. It is the you that was created for greatness, the you that was meant to rise, the you that was designed to impact the world. The greater self is disciplined where the old self was careless. It is bold where the old self was timid. It is visionary where the old self was blind. And the moment it is born, you will begin to see life differently. Where the old self saw obstacles, the greater self sees opportunities. Where the old self cried, "I can't," the greater self declares, "I will." Where the old self wasted time, the greater self redeems it. The birth of this new you transforms everything, not just what you do, but who you are. Think about this. A butterfly does not simply fly differently than a caterpillar. It is a completely different creature. The caterpillar crawls, the butterfly soars. The caterpillar survives, the butterfly is free, and yet they are the same being. One was simply waiting to be born. The same is true of you. The greater self does not settle for survival. It does not chase mediocrity. It does not bow to fear. It knows its worth. It pursues its purpose, and it lives with fire in its spirit. This is who you were meant to be, not a slave to weakness, but a master of destiny. But understand this: the birth of the greater self is not automatic. It is not an accident. It is a choice. Every day you are given two paths: the path of the old self or the path of the greater self. And each decision you make is either feeding one or starving the other. When you choose discipline over laziness, you feed the greater self. When you choose courage over fear, you feed the greater self. When you choose action over excuses, you feed the greater self. And with each choice, it grows stronger until one day the old self no longer has any power over you. This is the moment of transformation, the day you realize you are no longer who you used to be. Your mindset is different. Your habits are different. Your words are different. Your energy is different. People around you begin to notice. Some may even say you've changed, and they'll be right, because you have. You are no longer crawling, you are soaring. This is the gift of rebirth, the birth of the greater self. It is the self that is capable of building wealth, leading others, creating impact, and leaving a legacy. It is the self that can stand tall in the face of storms and still keep moving forward. It is the self that was always meant to be alive but was hidden beneath the layers of your old identity. So today, declare it: the old me has died and the greater me is born. Speak it until you believe it. Live it until the world cannot deny it. For once the greater self is alive, there is no force on earth that can stop you. Your destiny belongs to this version of you. Your purpose belongs to this version of you. Your future belongs to this version of you. And now is the time to let it live. Inside every human being, there are two selves constantly in conflict. One self is timid, fearful, and full of doubt. It whispers excuses, it clings to comfort, and it convinces you that mediocrity is safer than greatness. This self is the weaker version of you, built from years of conditioning, setbacks, and the voices of others who told you what you could not do. But there is another self within you, quiet at first, yet powerful beyond imagination. This is the self that knows no limits, that dreams boldly, that sees beyond circumstances, and that believes all things are possible when you refuse to quit. You can feel these two versions of yourself wrestling every day. When you wake up and hear the voice that says, "Stay in bed, life can wait," that is the weaker self. But when something inside pushes you to rise, to move, to fight for your goals, that is the higher self. When you stand in front of an opportunity and feel fear saying, "What if you fail?" that is the smaller self speaking. But when something inside tells you, "What if you succeed beyond your imagination?" that is the voice of the greater you, the you that was born to lead, to achieve, and to live with purpose. Understand this truth: both versions of you cannot rule your life at the same time. One must dominate. Either the weaker self will chain you to the ordinary, or the stronger self will lead you to the extraordinary. And every day, with every choice, you are casting a vote for which version of you will rise to power. Every decision, no matter how small, feeds one self and starves the other. If you give in to excuses, if you surrender to fear, if you let procrastination win, you are feeding the weaker self. But when you act with courage, when you speak with confidence, when you dare to push past your doubts, you are feeding the stronger self, the one that holds the key to your destiny. Greatness is not reserved for a chosen few. It belongs to those who understand the battle within and decide to give strength to the right side of themselves. The stronger version of you is not a fantasy. It is real, alive, waiting for you to claim it. It is the self that refuses to shrink in the face of challenge. It is the self that sees every failure as a stepping stone, every obstacle as a test, and every setback as preparation for a comeback. Think of the life you could live if you allowed your higher self to guide you. Imagine the courage you would feel, the opportunities you would seize, the relationships you would build, and the impact you would leave. That version of you already exists. It is not something you must create from nothing. It is already within you, hidden beneath layers of fear and doubt. The question is, which self will you allow to dominate your life? You must look in the mirror and make a choice. Will you continue to let the weaker self hold the steering wheel, driving you in circles of wasted time and regret? Or will you hand the wheel to the version of you that sees a horizon filled with possibility and dares to chase it? Remember this: your destiny does not depend on luck, on chance, or on circumstance. It depends on which version of you you allow to rule. The two selves cannot coexist in power. One must rise and one must fade, and only you can decide which one it will be. Growth always comes at a price. You cannot become the person you were destined to be while clinging to the old version of yourself. There is a version of you right now that must die, the version that has been holding you back, the version that finds safety in excuses, the version that has grown comfortable with mediocrity. That self has carried you this far, but it cannot take you to the next level. And until you bury it, you will never unlock the life that belongs to you. This is the great paradox of transformation. Before you can be reborn, something inside you must end. You cannot drag your fears into your future. You cannot carry procrastination into your purpose. You cannot hold on to laziness and still walk into greatness. Something has to go. The old self must be sacrificed for the stronger self to emerge. Ask yourself, how many dreams have been lost because people refuse to let go of their weaker version? How many lives have been wasted because someone chose comfort over courage? You have seen it before. Talented people, intelligent people, people with vision and ability, but they could not release their old habits, their old patterns, their old fears. They clung to the person they used to be, and as a result, they never became the person they were meant to be. The truth is simple. If you want to grow, something must die. The old self thrives on doubt, on excuses, on waiting for the right time. But the right time never comes. That version of you will always find reasons to delay, reasons to hide, reasons to play small. And as long as you keep listening to it, your dreams will stay locked away, collecting dust in the corner of your imagination. But when you make the decision to let that self go, to bury the excuses, to silence the fear, to destroy the patterns that no longer serve you, you create space for the greater version of yourself to rise. It is like clearing a field of weeds before planting a harvest. You cannot expect growth if you do not first remove what is choking your potential. Killing the old self is not easy. It will fight for survival. It will whisper to you when you are tired, telling you to quit. It will remind you of past failures and convince you that history will repeat itself. It will seduce you with the comfort of old habits, because habits are familiar and the familiar feels safe. But do not be deceived. Safety is the cage that keeps you small. You must be ruthless with the version of yourself that has been holding you back. When fear speaks, refuse to listen. When doubt knocks, do not open the door. When laziness calls your name, turn your back. This is not cruelty, it is necessary discipline. For every moment you feed the old self, you delay the birth of the new. Think of this as a death that leads to resurrection. The person you were yesterday may have been ruled by excuses, but tomorrow you can be reborn as someone who acts with courage. The person you were yesterday may have feared failure, but tomorrow you can rise as someone who embraces risk as the path to success. The person you were yesterday may have been comfortable with average, but tomorrow you can walk as someone destined for excellence. Do not mourn the death of your weaker self, celebrate it. For every weakness you kill, you give life to strength. For every fear you bury, you awaken courage. For every excuse you destroy, you create opportunity. And the more you let go of the old self, the more you will discover the limitless power of the new self waiting inside you. Remember, this transformation is not addition, it is subtraction. You do not become great by piling more on top of who you are. You become great by cutting away what no longer serves you, by removing the chains, by shedding the skin of limitation. Only then can the true version of you, the one filled with vision, faith, and strength, step into the light. Your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. Every idea you allow to take root in your mind shapes the world you experience. If you think small, you will live small. If you think fear, you will live in fear. If you think courage, abundance, and victory, you will draw those very things into your life. The invisible world of thought creates the visible world of results. There is a law at work, a law that does not fail. What you dwell upon consistently becomes your reality. The weaker version of you is born out of thoughts of limitation. It is the voice that says, I cannot, it's too late, or it's impossible. Those words are not harmless, they are seeds. And when they are planted, they grow into habits, actions, and eventually results that confirm your belief in limitation. But there is another version of you, the greater self, that feeds on a different kind of thought. This self thrives on belief, on vision, on an unshakable certainty that the future belongs to those who see it before it arrives. When you think with confidence, when you focus on what is possible instead of what is missing, you ignite power that reshapes your life. Stop for a moment and consider this. Every invention, every breakthrough, every act of greatness in history began in the unseen world of thought. The airplane existed in thought before it flew in the sky. The light bulb existed in thought before it illuminated the night. Great fortunes, great works of art, great discoveries, all of them were first a thought in someone's mind. If thought could give birth to such wonders, why would it not also transform your life? Your thoughts are not passive. They are instructions to your mind, to your body, and to the universe around you. If you think of yourself as weak, your actions will follow. If you think of yourself as capable, unstoppable, and destined for greatness, your behavior will rise to match that belief. This is why the battle of the two selves is fought in the mind. The weaker self feeds on thoughts of defeat. The stronger self feeds on thoughts of victory. Do not underestimate the power of belief. Belief turns the invisible into the visible. Belief gives you the courage to act when everything around you says to quit. Belief gives you strength when your circumstances suggest you are finished. Belief makes the impossible possible. Without belief, even the greatest opportunities will slip through your hands. With belief, even the greatest obstacles can be turned into stepping stones. Think about your own life. How many times have you allowed doubt to stop you before you even began? How many chances have you missed because you told yourself a story of limitation? Now imagine what your life would look like if you replaced every limiting thought with one of power, if you replaced every I can't with I must, if you replaced every it's too hard with it is worth it. This is not wishful thinking. It is discipline. You must train your mind to dwell only on the thoughts that serve you. Guard your mental garden as you would guard your most precious treasure. Do not let weeds of fear and doubt take root. Plant thoughts of faith, of strength, of vision, and water them daily with action. Understand this truth? You are already thinking every day, but the question is, what are you thinking about? The direction of your life is nothing more than the direction of your dominant thoughts. If you want to rise higher, think higher. If you want to achieve more, believe more. If you want to meet the greater version of yourself, start by thinking as that version would think. Your future is not waiting for luck, it is waiting for thought. As you believe, so you shall become. And when you choose to align your thoughts with faith, vision, and courage, you will awaken the self within you that is capable of extraordinary achievement. Thought without action is like a seed left in a drawer, full of potential, but destined to rot unused. You can dream, you can plan, you can imagine the higher version of yourself all day long, but unless you take disciplined action, nothing will change. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you are meant to be. It is the proof of belief, the test of courage, and the only true measure of commitment. Too many people stop at vision. They read, they learn, they plan, but they never step forward. They say, I'm waiting for the right time, or I'll start when I feel ready, but readiness never comes. The weaker self will always find a reason to delay. If you wait for perfect conditions, you will wait forever. The stronger version of you does not wait, it acts. It takes the first step even in uncertainty. It moves forward even when fear is loud. It chooses discipline over comfort because it knows that discipline is the price of freedom. Discipline is not punishment. It is the training of your will. It is the daily practice of proving to yourself that you are in control, not your excuses, not your habits, not your fears. When you rise early to work on your dream, when you keep going after failure, when you do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it, you are feeding the stronger self. Every act of discipline is a brick laid on the foundation of your destiny. Action has a power that thought alone can never match. One step forward, no matter how small, creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence fuels more action. And before long, what once felt impossible becomes routine. What once felt far away becomes near. Success is not one giant leap. It is the accumulation of small, disciplined actions repeated with faith and consistency. Ask yourself, how many times have you known what to do but failed to do it? Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. A plan on paper changes nothing. A dream in your mind changes nothing. But action, taken with persistence and discipline, can change everything. You must train yourself to act even in the face of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Every time you take action when fear says stop, you weaken the grip of your old self. You prove to your mind and spirit that you are stronger than hesitation, stronger than doubt, stronger than excuses. Discipline also means consistency. Greatness is not built in a single day. It is built day after day, action after action, choice after choice. The stronger self is not revealed in bursts of motivation, but in the steady, daily grind of commitment. It is easy to act when you feel inspired. True discipline is acting when you feel tired, uninspired, and tempted to quit. That is the test that separates the weaker self from the stronger one. Understand this truth. Discipline is freedom. The undisciplined life feels free in the moment, but leads to chains of regret. The disciplined life feels heavy in the moment, but leads to the freedom of achievement, of self-respect, of living the life you truly desire. Every act of discipline is an investment in your future. Every action you take in alignment with your vision is a declaration that the stronger version of you is in control. Do not wait for motivation, act, and motivation will follow. Do not wait for clarity, act, and clarity will appear. Do not wait for courage, act, and courage will grow. The destiny you dream of will not come to those who wait. It will come to those who move, who fight, who persist, who discipline themselves to act again and again until the vision becomes real. Action is the doorway. Discipline is the key. And once you unlock that door and step through with courage, you will discover the life the stronger version of you was created to live. There comes a moment when you must stop talking about the stronger version of yourself and start living as that version. Too many people spend their lives in preparation, always becoming but never being. They say, one day I'll change, or someday I'll step into my power. But someday is a lie the weaker self tells to keep you small. The truth is, you do not become the greater version of yourself by waiting. You become it by deciding to embody it now. Living as the higher version of you means refusing to negotiate with your limitations. It means no longer asking fear for permission, no longer letting excuses dictate your pace, no longer carrying the weight of old failures as if they were chains around your ankles. The higher version of you does not apologize for dreaming big. It does not shrink to fit the comfort zones of others. It does not compromise on purpose. It stands tall, walks boldly, and lies with an inner authority that comes from knowing who it really is. Think about the power of identity. The weaker self says, I want to change. The stronger self says, I am changed. The weaker self says, I hope I can. The stronger self says, I must, I will, and nothing will stop me. When you live as the higher version of you, you no longer wait for external validation. You no longer need applause to move forward. Your validation comes from within, from knowing you are living true to the vision planted inside your soul. The world does not reward intentions, it rewards embodiment. You can say you are disciplined, but unless you live with discipline, it means nothing. You can say you are courageous, but unless you face fear, it is just words. You can say you are destined for greatness, but unless you act, that destiny remains locked away. Living as the higher version of you means becoming the example, not the explanation. It means your actions, your habits, your daily choices all reflect the truth of who you are becoming. But do not mistake this life for perfection. The higher version of you is not flawless. It is fearless in the pursuit of growth. It still stumbles, but it never quits. It still doubts, but it never surrenders. It still faces storms, but it refuses to sink. Living as your higher self does not mean you will never face challenges. It means you meet challenges with a new identity, a new strength, and a new determination. Ask yourself, if you were already the stronger version of you, how would you think? How would you speak? How would you walk into a room? How would you face your goals? Begin doing those things now. Speak as that person would speak. Move as that person would move. Live as that person would live. The moment you decide to embody that self, you step into the reality that was waiting for you all along. The weaker self waits for change. The stronger self becomes the change. The weaker self waits for opportunity. The stronger self creates opportunity. The weaker self sees obstacles as barriers. The stronger self sees obstacles as teachers. Living as the higher version of you means shifting from reaction to creation. You no longer let life happen to you. You make life happen through you. Remember, there is no future version of you coming to save you. The person you are waiting for is already inside you, waiting to be released. Stop postponing. Stop excusing. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Step into the role now. Live as the greater you today, and tomorrow will adjust to the power of your decision. When you begin to live as your higher self, you do more than change your life. You change the lives of everyone around you. You inspire others to rise, to believe, to step into their own power. You become a beacon of possibility, proof that transformation is not only possible, but inevitable for those who dare to live it. The stronger version of you is not in the distance. It is here now, waiting for you to say, this is who I am. And once you claim it, once you live it, the world cannot help but make room for the greatness you embody.